All right. I'm opening up the files in Songtracker. In this tutorial, I want to talk about general navigation and the order of data entry. So there's a script when you double-click the Songtracker file. There's a file called Songtracker in your folder. Double-click that. The only function that file has is to open up all your Songtracker files. So when it comes up, it should be like this. This file will probably be over here. It won't show like that, but I have it over here so I can see it. But anyway, so for navigation, we're going to click, the first thing we do is click the Done button. I'm going to click People and Data Entry in People. So that takes me to my first screen. Now from here, I wanted to show you there's a People is the first file. Everything's people-concentric in Songtracker. So you want to put your contacts in. First thing, you'll put your setup information in, your company information. The second thing you're going to do is start with people information, all your contacts, your songwriters, your authors, your publishers. They all go in here. Second thing you're going to do is contracts. You'll put a contract in for each deal you have, like for each writer that you're paying. If you have a deal with them for split publishing, etc. For your collaborators, you want to create a contract for each deal you have, each business deal you have. And I will show you that in the contracts tutorial. Also, then you go to catalog, song catalog, and a sub off of song catalog would be your version. So you could have multiple versions of your song catalog of any one song. So the song catalog would hold copyrights of a work. So each record would be a new work. But you might have 10 versions of that work. So the versions file is an offshoot from that, which lets you keep track of every version of songs in the catalog. Then it goes to licensing or licenses, and then royalties. So licenses lets you send out licenses, mechanical licenses, sync licenses. Royalties lets you track your royalties. And we'll get more into that with each individual tutorial, but the order of entry is very important. So what I'm saying, what I just took the time to say, is very important that you follow that order of data entry. People, contracts, catalog, versions, licenses, and royalties. There are other files as well, like projects that you can use. They're optional, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so this tutorial is mainly about your general navigation, how to get through Songtracker and know where to go. So we're in People. Notice these photo buttons. The left side of these photo buttons are the main files. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll see they stay pretty consistent. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the right are layouts within each file. So you're drilling down, but a layout, you can have multiple layouts in the People file or in the catalog file, for example, and you will. So in the People file, you have these different files like profile, promo, activities, details, web, email, live show. We'll go into those during the People tutorial. But in general, I wanted to show you navigation here. So you're on the People, the main People screen. If you want to go to different records, I should say not records, layouts, there's an activities log. I'm not going to go into these because they'll be covered later, but this is just navigation, how to get there. Then profile, keeps track of the profile of each person, promotional information about each person. Details can be a different screen. Now this detail button is driven by script, so it's relational according to what type of person you have here. Author, customer, vendor will give you a different screen on the right. So I'll get into that during the People tutorial. Web and email lets you choose which one you want. If you want to go to the email screen, click there. If you want to go to the website screen, you click the website button. Live show lets you keep track of information in the People file about various artists and what their schedule is. Also, songwriters could be. Now, there's a previous and a next button right here on the right. You click that. It's going to show, it'll keep these buttons the same, but it's going to give you some more layout names. Like home base is a good place. Evaluate. So you can keep evaluations of all of the songs that send out under a certain writer. So if you go to John Gold, you could check out all the evaluations, what other publishers or what other artists have said about his songs. You can keep track of all that information. We'll get into that later. Documents. This is the document file. It's called library. I'm not going to get into it now. People. Going back, I clicked on the people button, took me back to people. So I click this. Help desk, calendar. People takes me back to people. This shows me the number of records. Now this button palette at the top, the small button palette, stays the same on every file. It lets you go through the different records in that file, go forward or backwards. This will take you to the very first record in the database, and this lets you pick any record you want. So if you have 10,000 records and you want to go to record number 955, you just type that in there and click OK. All right, that should give you the idea of the people file. Now we're going to go to contracts. Now these are the main files right here, these 6 on the right. So we've done people. Now we're going to click contracts. Now, each screen is color-coded. So the people file is color-coded. So I clicked contracts thinking I would go to the contract file. But a lot of times we give you what's called relational data as it pertains to the person that you're currently on or the current record that you're on so that you can fill in data a little easier. So you could start a contract here, for example. And we'll go into that later in the contracts tutorial. But there's a go button. That's a navigation button that lets you get over to the red files, which all the red banners tell you you're in the contracts file. Now, again, these are the main files. Over here on the right are the 6 buttons, 5 or 6 buttons that pertain to layouts within the contract file. Detail. I'm not going to go into all this now. Royalty data. Percentage points. Special information. A checklist. Now each file has one of these. Royalty history. Again, just clicking the big buttons at the top here. Special, points, royalty data, detail. There's 6 or 7 screens that are data entry screens that you can keep track of data. Now, home base is a general navigation file. We've got a separate tutorial just about the navigation of home base, so I suggest you take that. So we're in contracts. I'm going to click contracts to get back there. All right, now that we've done contracts, what's the next one? It's catalog. So our order of entry is people, contracts. Now you can do your song catalog. You can't do your song catalog until you've got your writers and publishers in the people file and a contract for each one. So now you click catalog and we go to one song. You click on the long list. That was a long list of songs. I clicked on anywhere on the record and it takes you to the main data entry screen. Now, I go to these buttons, these 6 on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have versions, which is an offshoot of catalog file. I'll skip that for a second. I'll go to authors. This is where you do your author splits and your publisher splits. Copyright information. Lyric sheet. Checklist. Again, most of the files have a checklist, so you can keep track of what you've done on each song or what you've done for each person, etc., each contract. Library is a song library, and this also connects to the versions file. So you could go to the library, it tells you about it, but here's all the versions you have of this song. My Heart Belongs to You, done by Real McCoy Band, Jimmy Devine, Brenda V, Bill Joseph, different people that recorded the song. So I can click the versions file, Now the heading in the versions file is blue, different from the catalog file, which was yellow. So we try to color code them so you'll know where you are. Again, the left side of the buttons are all the main files. The right side, the layouts within this file, versions. It's also stated here and by color. Inventory, this comes out of the setup file. If you took the setup tutorial, you'll recognize this layout. But this allows you to see your equipment inventory in the version file. Here's your studio, session schedule and billing. Tracks, if you want to keep track of this, you can keep track of your recording tracks on each song version. Library, there's a song library for each version, so you can keep track. Now this information gets looked up automatically out of the catalog file, so that helps you save some time in entering this data again. You can modify it, of course. Then we have a checklist and one called assets. Now assets is where you store videos and songs. It allows you to attach them here. And you can also even get into your metadata and be entering lots of metadata. Metadata is required if you're going to create digital versions of your songs and you want to include the metadata. This will allow you to export out your metadata to a file for like iTunes or SoundMiner, different programs like that, so that it can be merged and melded with your metadata into your music. I'll get into that later. For example, here's a graphic for an album cover. All right, checklist, collect. Here's performance royalties that are collected on each version. They could be entered here. Awards. You can track every award that you ever get. Unlimited number of records for each version of the song. So that takes care of this. Again, I'm just clicking through them. Don't be afraid to click them. Go through. As long as you're on the blue, you know you're still in the versions file. When you get over here and you click the next button, licenses, you'll notice the color's green. This gives you a long list. Let's show all records. Let's pick one. Click on this record. It takes you to the main data entry screen. This is where you enter your licensing information. You can have multiple license, unlimited license per file. In the file, for every song, you can have as many licenses as you wish. Again, the left side is for the main files, and these are the layouts in the license file. So you have collections, where you collect money in from a license. Then you pay it out. And I'll explain all this in the licensing video. The calendar. Click off of that. Go to status. Here's more additional information on the license. Get down to some more detail. Back to data entry. Deposits from your the money collected from a license. And again, a checklist. And the paid out view lets you view what's been paid out. Where here is a data entry screen. It's a little busier, so we'll get into that. But the paid out just lets you look at it and view it. So that's your licensing file. In each of these files, there's also a report button up here. There's a long list button here and a report button here. So this has different license screens. Here's the general reports, license reports, online reports, or online connections. When you get a long list like that, that just means you can view information as a list, and you can click on any of these to go to that record. It's a great navigation route. Now, up in here, the long list takes you to that, where we just were. Okay. This plus button, I'm not going to click it now, but it adds a brand new blank record in all the files. Again, the little printer is a reports button. So when you click that, you get general reports. You click done, you're back to a long list, and you can navigate around that way. This little pink button with a plus sign, That allows you to track messages in your office, especially if you're on a larger office where you have multiple users. People can create messages for you when you're gone. You can come back and get your messages. It's a very powerful feature in Songtracker. This is a find button. If you took the help tutorial, this is the H button for help that takes you to the help file. Click done to hide it. Trash just is a delete button. Now, the hammer is a maintenance button. It just takes you to an extra screen, which you don't use very often, but it has some information and sometimes some scripts or buttons that you can use for import when you upgrade versions and things like that. This button takes you back, not in all cases, not in all places, but it'll take you back to the last record. All right. Now, we've done licenses. Let's go to royalties. So I click the royalty button. It gives me a long list of my royalty statements. I'm going to click on one. Again, all the main buttons. Home base is a general file. And then there's 3 or 4 layouts in here. Memo. You can put a memo on the royalty statement if you want, like a little letter. Advances, it tracks your advances so you can keep track of them. And data entry. And we'll get into the details of this in the royalty tutorial. This allows you to show all records. This allows you to track where you are in the database, what record you're on, and how many are in the file, how many are in the found set. If you don't know about that, that's a FileMaker thing. You should check out the FileMaker tutorial, which talks about find requests and found sets. It's very important to know. Very helpful. All right. Now, projects. Here's a long list in the project file. Again, there's your 6 files, and here's your 6 layouts in this file. A checklist for your projects. Now, projects can, any recording project you want to track. It can also be used for artist royalties. If you have artists on a label, you can pay out points and keep track of them in this file. It's because it works differently than publishing royalties, as you know. So we put it in a different file to be able to track it properly. So licensing does does all your licenses and your royalties for publishing, writer royalties, publisher royalties, co-publisher royalties, foreign royalties, and then artist and management deals, stuff like where there's points paid out, would be done in this file here, which is done very similar to the license file. You have a payout and a collection. You have deposits of money and a paid out where you can look at it. There's a report screen. There's points. So you can put in the points of a deal and set it up under any project. Okay, that's pretty much it on that. Again, you have all the same buttons on every file. We're in the projects file now as a light blue. So we've gone through people, contracts, catalog, licenses, royalties, and projects. You're in projects. Let's say you want to go right to the catalog file. You just click that. It gives you a long list. You click on the record that you want, the song that you want, and it takes you to the song. That is the copyright of the song. So that's the main version of the song. Then you get into versions. You could have one version that you record or multiple versions for My Heart Belongs to You, for example. All right. There are other files in the system. If you look at the home base tutorial, I talk about how to get to those files through the home base file. So check that out if you haven't done so already. But that'll give you a basic idea. Once again, the most important thing is the left buttons, the 6, are your main files that you navigate back and forth on a daily basis. The right 6 buttons, the photo buttons, are your layouts in that file. If you're in yellow, you're in catalog. So all these buttons would have to do with the catalog file. Here's where you enter your authors and publishers. You enter all this data. Then you click More, and you enter any more data, a little bit more data that we'll get into in the catalog file. But this is how you navigate to it. You can get back that way. And then you could move on to copyrights, lyric. So we've already gone through this library. Next. I click the next button to see if there's any more, and there are. Here's the demos. Keep a project record of your demos. Evaluations is a file where you can keep track of each song that you send out and find out what people say and keep track of that. You can go to details with the detail button, and it takes you to the actual information. So it's in a database called Evaluate. See up here. I click off it. I go to reports, a set list. You can keep track of a set list. I don't use that very much, but it's an old feature we had, and some people still use it to keep track of sets for live performance, for example. There's a report screen. You have different report screen. Here's a list reports, agreement and legal forms, PA form, agreements, labels, and inserts if you still use those. Those are from earlier versions that we kept those features in. Even though a lot of things are done online now, it still allows you to create labels if you want. Online registrations, that's like direct links to go to copyright registration, like here. You'd click your web viewer, and that takes you over to that. So I just clicked and we went right to the copyright.gov website. And here you can log in. So you can do websites, go to websites from within Songtracker. When I'm doing the tutorials of each of those files, I'll go into more detail about that. But that should give you a general overview of how to get around Songtracker. I'm just going to go over here to contracts. Yes, there's no next button here. That tells me we've got all of the buttons showing. And catalog, we do have a previous and a next button. That tells me there are extra buttons on the right side. So pay attention to those. Reports, I think we went there. Checklist, authors, versions. This is kind of a window to get over to versions, which is real helpful. Versions is the blue file once again. All right, back to people. This is where we start. Here's a long list. On each screen, we have sort buttons, so you could sort by author type. I should say the type of contact, accounts, contact, title, category 1, category 2, code, and name. So that's very helpful. And to get to the record you want to get to, just click on the record. Twyla Fabulous. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Check it out and get to know how to navigate around Songtracker. That's the first thing you want to know. That'll give you confidence, and then we'll get into entering data on each specific tutorial. Okay, thanks for listening. And to shut your files down, just choose Quit FileMaker Pro, Advanced, or you have two choices. You can click the Home Base button, click on Main, and there's a button called Close Files, which will close. Are you sure you want to close all the files? Yes.